We also have your survey out of sentiment among businesses. We will get to that shortly, but I just wanted to start with your reaction to what we heard. There wasn't that much mention of it being like a new deal for the UK economy. Certainly the press coverage ahead of the speech had suggested we might get those references, but maybe the size of it pales in contrast to the New Deal in the US. I mean, was it big enough? What we heard yesterday was £5 billion worth of investment. What was your response?
Well, for business communities, it's certainly an important start. Getting infrastructure projects moving around the UK is one of the best things that we can do to help rebuild confidence and, of course, provide jobs at a period when many private companies may be shedding them. But on its own, no, it's not enough. Given the scale of the challenges facing the UK economy, more substantial action is going to be required over the days and weeks ahead to boost both business and consumer confidence. So we've got to see this as a series of measures. Infrastructure yesterday. We're going to need to see support for employment, support for investment, and much more besides over the weeks ahead.
So not enough. I mean, clearly, Adam, the £5 billion pound figure pales even in 1930s numbers to the actual New Deal in comparison. What would you like to see, though? What would be, if you had a wish list, what would be up at the top?
Well, of course, we do have a wish list built on what business communities all across the UK have been saying to us, and built on an incredible wealth of data and information about business performance and business expectations. One of the things that we're going to need to see is a cut to some of the input costs facing businesses. So employment-related taxes, business rates, and other costs. Companies should be focused on paying their people and their suppliers right now, not paying the tax man, because that, of course, will help them and the wider economy to recover. We're also going to need to see some form of demand stimulus as well. Consumers are not getting out there as quickly or as heartily as needs to happen for the economy to recover strongly. So it may take the form of a cut to VAT. It may take the form of some vouchers to encourage households back onto high streets and into town centres across the country. But that demand stimulus is going to be important too. And finally, of course, we've got a huge number of young people who we worry could be the most affected by this crisis, their life chances and their employment chances. So we're going to need to see some wage subsidies to get young people into the labour market and to help employers have the confidence to take them on. So there's a big prescription here, a lot of measures that are going to be needed in order to cure what is currently ailing the UK economy.
And we'll see whether the Chancellor Rishi Sunak has been listening to any of those suggestions, a lot of suggestions that you've made there, Adam, about what needs to be done for the UK economy. I know that you've also put out your quarterly economic survey. I was reading it, and it was just a sort of a list of item after item that just seems to be worse than ever before. What surprised you then? Let's start with that, shall we? What surprised you about this quarterly survey? I mean, it was clearly pretty dire.
Well, unfortunately, Anna, not very much surprised us, given what we'd been hearing from the ground level across the UK in recent weeks. So of the 14 indicators we've been tracking for the last 30 years, 11 of them are now at their historic lows, and the other 3 are not far off. So it is probably one of the worst quarters in memory for British business. But we all knew that, with a significant chunk of the economy being closed. I suppose what I'm most concerned about is that the forward-looking indicators, so questions about whether businesses have recruitment intentions going forward, what their confidence is in what their turnover is likely to be, and what their forward orders look like. All of those indicators were pretty dismal. And that's why we think the stimulus is going to be needed to get things moving again. It's not a surprise to see the historic and backward-looking data pretty dire, but it is a concern that when looking ahead, businesses are lacking in confidence and they need that confidence restored.
In that case, I wonder how feasible it is, Adam, for there to be apprenticeships and work placements for all the young people in the UK, something Boris Johnson is promising. It doesn't sound like there are enough openings.
Well, it's only feasible, of course, if the businesses feel confident to take people on and train them. That's why we've set a wage subsidy for apprenticeships and work experience and things like that is going to be so important over the coming months, because there will be a recovery in business conditions, whether it's toward the back end of this year or into 2021. There will be a rebound, and businesses will be out needing to increase capacity, needing to take on new staff as well. We want them to have the confidence to do that, and we also want them to be able to take on those who might be leaving school, leaving university, and trying to get into the labor market. Otherwise, the government's going to find itself paying for that generation to be out of work or underemployed for a very long time to come, and that would be a far worse outcome.